What's good YouTube, back with another video. In this video I'll be going over 3 rotoscope effects inside After Effects. The first effect is going to be more of a background spin transition, and the second and third effect are going to be kind of similar, where I'll be creating this kind of liquid effect, but all 3 of them will be unique rotoscope effects that you can add to your edits or your music videos. So make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into it. So starting with the first effect, I have this clip of Sofago from his music video. In order to get started, we're going to rotoscope our subject, so double click the layer and grab the rotobrush tool. And I'm sure a lot of you know how to rotoscope, but for those that don't know, quick tip to make your rotobrush bigger is holding the control button and the left click and just dragging your mouse, and it makes it bigger or smaller. And if there are any unwanted areas that you don't want to rotoscope, you can hold the alt button and the left click and just drag over the unwanted areas, and that just gets rid of the areas that you don't want. So I'm going to rotoscope my subject. After rotoscoping your subject, you want to go frame by frame just to make sure that everything was accurately rotoscoped the way you want it to, and also just getting rid of any unwanted areas. And after checking that, you want to hit the freeze button, which locks in our rotoscoped subject. After hitting the freeze button, we're going to go back into the composition. I'm going to increase the feather to 10 and decrease the shift edge to -70, and that just makes the edges of our subject smoother. We're going to then duplicate this layer and bring that layer underneath, and I'm going to change the name of this layer to BG, which stands for Sofago background. I'm going to then delete the rotobrush effect for that layer, and I'm going to add an effect called motion tile. Make the output width 600 and the output height at 600. Click mirror edges. I'm going to then add an effect called transform to this layer, and we're going to be keyframing the position as well as the rotation. Click the layer and click U to reveal the keyframes. I'm going to go forward 20 frames, so hold the shift button and click page down, and that goes forward 10 frames, 10, 20, and I'm going to keyframe the position and then go forward 5 frames. So just hit the page down button 5 times, and I'm going to keyframe the rotation at 180. Go another 5 frames forward, and I'm going to be keyframing the position where it animates from left to right. I'm going to have it at around there. Go forward 20 frames, and then keyframe the position back to its original position, and then keyframing the rotation to 360, which is 1 full cycle. We're going to then grab all these keyframes and easy ease them, and make sure to turn the motion blur on. In order to create that warp effect, we're going to add an effect called CC lens. It just warps the background, creates this distorted effect. I'm going to increase the size to 150 and keyframe the convergence at 0 in the beginning. That way it just starts normally. Go towards the middle and keyframe the convergence to 100. Go all the way towards the end and keyframe it back to 0. Grab those keyframes, easy ease them, and this is what we have so far. This is a render intensive effect because of the distort effects that we are using. So depending on your system, you definitely want to change your resolution to either third or quarter resolution in order for it to render faster. After waiting for it to render, this is what we have so far. We have this like crazy background spin transition, and in order to add a final touch to this effect, I'm going to keyframe the position where it just animates from left to right back to its original position. Going forward 20 frames, I'm going to have it animate from the left, probably have it around there, and then go forward 10 frames, just animating it back to its original position. So as the background spin transition happens, it's as if our subject is moving within the animation, and then it just goes back to its original position. Grab those keyframes, and I'm going to easy ease them. Make sure to have the motion blur on, and this is our final effect. Now moving on to our second effect, we're going to be creating this like rotation effect of that rotoscope subject that has all the effects on it. In order to get started, we're going to first rotoscope our subject. After rotoscoping our subject, hit the freeze button, and then I'm going to go back into the composition. I'm going to increase the feather to 10 and decrease the shift edge to -70. I'm going to then duplicate this layer twice, bring both those layers right underneath, and I'm going to rename this layer to BG. Same thing as before, just so that I know that's the background layer. And then I'm going to delete the rotobrush effect for that. And the middle layer, or the second layer, is the layer that I'm going to be adding the effects to, as well as creating the animation for. In order to get started, add a tint to this layer. I'm going to change the white color to a green color, and then I'm going to add a uniglow to this layer, and I'm going to increase the size to 25 as well as increasing the intensity to 3. After the uniglow, I'm going to add a motion tile, increase the output width and the output height to 400, click mirror edges, and then for the final effect, I'm going to add an optics compensation. For this effect, I'm going to have it starting from the 4th frame, so just cut the layer to where it starts from the 4th frame, and I'm going to keyframe the optics compensation at field of view of 0 in the beginning. Make sure to check the reverse lens distortion, click your layer and click U to reveal the keyframes. Go forward 20 frames, keyframe the field of view at 80, and then go forward another 20 frames and keyframe it back to 0. In order to create that spin transition, I'm going to keyframe the scale as well as the rotation. So just go towards the beginning, keyframe the scale as well as the rotation, and then go towards the end and keyframe the scale again at 100% and keyframe the rotation at a full 360. And then I'm going to go back towards the middle and keyframe the scale at 50% just so that it gets smaller and then it gets bigger again. Grab all those keyframes, easy ease them. Make sure to turn on your motion blur. I'm going to go into my graph editor for the optics compensation. Have it kind of animate slow in the beginning, so have it the influence at around 75. Make the influence of the ending at around 75 as well, so that it starts kind of slowly and it goes faster in the middle and then it ends slowly again. I'm going to create a similar graph for the other keyframes as well, so have the scale at 75, have the ending at 75, and then for the rotation as well, have the beginning start off a little slower and then the ending animates out a little faster. And right when the animation ends, I'm going to cut this layer. So now if we play this is what we have for our final effect. It kind of just appears on in the beginning, and right when the animation ends, it cuts out. And now moving on to our final effect. I'm going to first start out by rotoscoping my subject. After accurately rotoscoping the subject, you guys already know I'm going to hit the freeze button and then go back into our composition. I'm going to turn on the transparency grid just so that I can see the edges of my subject, and I'm going to increase that to 10 and decrease the shift edge to have that at -60. I'm going to duplicate this layer twice, bring both those layers underneath, and of course I'm going to rename these. Delete the rotobrush effect for the background layer. I'm going to add a fill to the middle layer, change the color to green, similar as the effect from before, and then I'm going to add a glow to this layer. Increase the glow radius to 90. In order to create that distorted effect for the background, I'm going to add an adjustment layer. Make sure it's right underneath our main subject, and I'm going to add a turbulent displace to that layer. Change the displacement to turbulent smoother, and what that does is just creates that distorted look for our background. We're going to then keyframe the amount as well as the evolution, and I'm going to go forward 20 frames, keyframe the evolution at 360, so that goes one full cycle, and keyframe the amount at 125. Go forward 10 frames and keyframe the amount back to 0. Grab those keyframes and easy ease them. And now if we play this, we have this like background liquid distort effect. And then I'm going to add another adjustment layer and create this camera zoom in and then zoom out effect. So I'm going to add a transform to this layer, keyframe the position as well as the scale, and then go forward 10 frames, zoom in towards our subject's face, just have it like towards the middle, just so that it looks like the camera is sort of zooming in. And then I'm going to go forward 20 frames towards the end and keyframe it back to its original position and making the scale at 100. Grab those keyframes, easy ease them, make sure to turn on your motion blur, and now if we play this, it creates that zoom in and then zoom out effect. But those are the effects that I have for this video. If you guys found this video helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.